Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our TPB meeting. So the first order is to approve the TPB agenda from today, May 13th, 2025.
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion and a second to approve today's agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Next, we have the approval of the TPB minutes from April 8th, 2025. We have a motion and a second. All right, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, great, thanks. Next, we have a director's report. Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Transportation Policy Body. We have a few items to report to you. Before that, I just want to give highlights of today's action items. There's an MTP document that has a long way. Staff had been working since 5 years, and more importantly, since past 3 years, coordinating with State Department of Transportation staff and Federal Highway Administration staff. Today, we are seeking your approval on the document, but I wanted to share with you that due to recent months, the language from the administration, we are working and in collaboration with the DOT and Federal Highway Administration on, how do we incorporate that language, and we'll be, revisiting again in the next month or so to incorporate all the language and seek your approval again. But today's approval will help us continuity of obligation, transportation improvement program and statewide transportation improvement program. I just want to give a heads up because there's much in collaboration to be done to do that work. With that overview, I would like to request my staff to, provide you some reports, starting with TIP project statuses. Peter.
Good afternoon, TPP members. So on page 16 of the WAMPO TIP policy requires bi-monthly progress reports for project program to receive WAMPO suballocated federal funding in the current federal fiscal year, or for projects that have received it in a past fiscal year but have not yet finished. So as is the custom, I'll go through the projects that are set to let this year, or to obligate this year, I should say. The 53rd Street Oliver to Woodlawn Multi-Street Path, anticipated to let in May of this year. The Douglas Seneca to Meridian project, anticipated to let in August. The 17th Street North I-135 to Hillside project, anticipated to let in June. The Seneca Street Multi-Use Path, anticipated to let in September. And then we have the Southwest Butler Road improvements from Southwest 170th Street to Southwest 155th Street, anticipated to let, is now to be determined. The Wichita Intelligent Transportation Systems, East 21st Street North project, anticipated to let early fall of this year. And the Red Bud Multi-Use Path from Woodlawn Boulevard near 17th Street, 3.5 miles east to K96, the phase 1 part of that project, is anticipated to let in September. This map is in your packet on page 11 and shows the different projects throughout the WAMPO region. And then, as is customary with these updates, we also accompany them with a table that shows the non-suballocated federal funds that were put into the TIP after Amendment 4, as of Amendment 4, I should say. Any questions on the bi-monthly TIP updates?
Just an update on that BP 2302. That's probably won't let in May. This has gone back to KDOT for review, and they're telling us it looks like maybe in the fall before they have it done.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Benaj.
Thank you, Peter. Next item on ITS architecture.
Yes, the ITS architecture update. So just quick update on there. We have the Intelligent Transportation Systems architecture update. So the purpose of developing a regional ITS architecture is to document ITS infrastructure, devices, personnel, and maintainers so that planning and deployment and communication can take place in an organized and coordinated fashion. It is also federally required to develop and maintain an ITS architecture. Our last update was in 2006. We began work on a new full update this past fall of 2024. And I want to keep this just on people's radar because later on this year, it will be an approval item for consideration by TAC and TPP. So we just had our larger ITS stakeholder meeting on April 22nd. We have an ITS steering committee meeting that was held just this morning where they reviewed draft ITS architecture plans and ITS deployment plan for feedback and review. Our next steps are to incorporate all that feedback into our draft documents, submit them for federal review, get them up for public comment, and then submit them for TAC recommendation and TPP for approval, looking at hopefully late summer, probably early fall. Any questions on the ITS architecture?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Peter. The active transportation plan.
Yeah, so the regional active transportation plan consultant development or RFP development. So we are developing a request for proposals in accordance with the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. The purpose of the plan is to assess existing conditions, identify gaps in non-motorized travel network, and recommend strategies and potential projects for improving active transportation options. So we're going to build upon previous studies and align with recent and ongoing projects, including the recently finished Wichita Bicycle Plan and the Kansas Active Transportation Plan, also the WAMPO Safe Routes to School plans, and the Regional Complete Streets Policy.
Appreciate it. And Kim has some reports on safe routes to school as well. So Kim.
Safe streets. Oh, sure. So we have I wanted to give a quick update on the SS4A 2025 grant opportunity. So the SS4A grants are awarded on a competitive basis to support planning, infrastructure, and behavioral and operational initiatives to prevent fatalities and serious injuries among all road users. The federal fiscal year 2025 SS4A NOFO, or Notice of Funding Opportunity, was released on March 28, 2025. And SS4A grant applications, including for implementation grants, must be submitted by 5 p.m. on June 26, 2025. So initially, it was contemplated that WAMPO might submit a single application for this grant on behalf of the region, but following a thorough review of the SS4A Notice of Funding Opportunity and related reimbursement procedures, and then also discussion with the TSTA, the Transportation Safety Technical Advisors that were overseeing the development of the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and then also TAC discussions that we had this past April. It has been decided that WAMPO will not submit a single grant application on behalf of the region, but encourage individual to jurisdictions to submit projects on their own. There's several reasons for this, but primarily, if we were to be successful in an MPO-led application, it would require WAMPO planning agency to take on responsibilities related to managing elements of a construction project, including administering cost reimbursements on behalf of one or more jurisdictions. Introducing WAMPO as an additional layer in this process adds complexity without providing a clear benefit. And critically, this still doesn't impair WAMPO from helping jurisdictions wishing to submit an SS4A implementation grant application. We can still assist in that process. Also, applications submitted by individual jurisdictions appear to offer greater advantage than a single MPO-wide submission. So in this case, multiple projects in the region could be submitted and judged independently. Each project would get its own dedicated narrative of up to 12 pages. Most successful applications focus on just one project or one corridor or similar improvements at multiple locations within a jurisdiction. The merits of a project would be evaluated in a local context, so you aren't having to compete against a whole region or trying to justify why your project is significant. And then finally, communities with populations under 50,000 and rural communities receive additional bonus points during application scoring if they submit on their own. So finally, to sum, we're encouraging member jurisdictions to consider submitting individual SS4A implementation grant applications, and each submitted project must include elements of at least one project from the WAMPO Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, or CSAP. So WAMPO staff, in collaboration with the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, and visit them at the link in there, are available to assist jurisdictions in identifying projects, developing grant application narratives, and assembling necessary data and providing letters of support. Any questions on the SS4A grant implementation grant?
What did you say those are due?
June 26th. 5 p.m. Eastern. Sorry.
Eastern time, all right. Minus an hour.
Thank you so much, Peter. Next item we have is Safe Routes to School, and this body, leadership of these board members was instrumental in having this development of Safe Routes to School plan for the region. And then staff is doing great job and consulting firm is doing great job, and Kim is here to report on the status.
Good afternoon. I am very excited to share the progress that has been made on Safe Routes to Schools thanks to your support and thanks to our excellent school system here. We already have 43 confirmed schools participating in this project. Our goal is to get at least 60, and we have several more schools. You know, it's end of the school year. So we have several communities and stuff still working to get those confirmed schools to us. So we anticipate another 5 to 10 schools coming here in the next week or two once school is out. So very excited. I will show you a list of the schools here in a moment so that you can see what schools have confirmed. We have our SRTS stakeholder committee set. They are operating, meeting regularly, providing input. The next meeting's July 14th. We're giving them June off, end of school. We're developing the outreach materials, and we're working on fall enrollment and back to school events so that we can engage with parents and caregivers as they're getting their kiddos enrolled for school and really take advantage of this full school year that will be coming. So in addition, we're finalizing the parent caregiver survey and the student travel tally that will happen in the fall. And those are some really important data to collect. It'll be useful for us in many ways beyond even Safe Routes to Schools. So excited to get that data collection going. Here, I have 2 slides because we have so many schools. So these are the schools that have already confirmed. They're already participating, working with us. And like I mentioned, we have the majority of the public school districts on board, and we do have the Wichita Catholic Diocese on board. We're working closely to reach out to the rest of the private schools to get their participation as well. So we expect that to go up. Here, let me go to the next slide. These are the Wichita and Rose Hill schools. If you know of a school that you would like to participate, you think they would benefit and they're not on this list, please let me know and we can circle back. You know, like I said, schools are super busy and, you know, may not have necessarily seen our information. So there's still plenty of time to get more schools engaged in the SRTS. Yeah, Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Kim. Can we get a copy of the schools just emailed to us?
I can. We can definitely send that out, and we will be putting it up on our website now that they have confirmed with us. We'll be updating that website list with links so that parents, caregivers, all of you can also engage and see what's happening in between meetings. So,
Okay. And is there a deadline for them to sign up for the study?
No, it's kind of a rolling process. So any schools that come on board, we will just integrate them and get them into the process. So we're just trying to do this big initial push before the end of the school year because, you know, that next school year is going to sneak up on us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate it. Mr. Chair, with your permission, let me introduce our new staff today. Chris Sweeney is our accountant, senior accountant. He was introduced to executive committee last week because it's an important position, taking Kyle Thomas, senior accountant. Chris, do you have a few words to introduce yourself, please? Thank you, Chris.
Hi there. My name's Chris Sweeney. I started last Monday, so I've been here for about a week. Nice to meet a lot of you, even just up here, I guess. I know I've met a few of you too in other times. But yeah, excited to work here at WAMPO and keep working towards the same mission as they've done before. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Kyle did a great job with the audit and monitoring everything you have seen last month. So I requested Kyle to stay until Chris has, the transition takes smoother, and Kyle is now serving as a part-time and Chris is now full-time. Mr. Chair, thank you.
I think you and Chris, welcome again. So welcome to WAMPO. So next we have item D, the consent agenda. Chad, back to
So
you.
much. And Marky revised roster for TAC, and Marky, thank you.
Yes, thank you. As you all know, the Transportation Policy Body is the authorizing body for the Technical Advisory Committee. And with that, all members appointed to the Technical Advisory Committee must be approved by this body. Having received documentation from both Wichita Transit and Coordinated Transit District Number 9, or CTD 9, for their selected representatives and alternates, we are now seeking your approval to add these members to the Technical Advisory Committee. That includes the appointment of Lily Pimnar Rodko to the role to the member for Wichita Transit, and Raven Alexander will remain as the alternate. And then also Shar Ehrman and Christy Fletcher as the representative and alternate, respectively, for CTD 9.
All right, thank you, Marky. Anybody would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? Do we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have item 3, the public comment. Is there any member that would like to speak? All right, come on up, please.
Thank you. I'm with Alan Kaler and I'm with Bike Walk Wichita. And I just wanted to point out to everyone that May is Bike Month. And this morning, the Wichita City Council issued a proclamation to celebrate that fact. I think the proclamation does a great job of outlining some of the benefits of bicycling and why it's good to support it. So I'd like to read just a few of the passages from it. And it says that whereas the bicycle has been a viable and environmentally friendly, sound form of transportation and an excellent form of recreation and exercise. And whereas the education of cyclists and motorists as to the proper and safe operation is important to ensure the safety and comfort of all users in an effort to reduce cycle-related injuries and deaths. And whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been shown to improve residents' health and well-being, quality of life, community spirit, and reduction of pollution and congestion. There we go. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Wichita City Council does hereby proclaim May 2025 as Bike Month in the city of Wichita and encourage all residents, businesses, and independent cyclists throughout our community to support the celebration of Bike Month and promote bicycling as a healthy, sustainable, and enjoyable form of transportation and recreation. I'd like to, in addition to thanking the City Council for passing the proclamation, I'd like to thank this body for your support of active transportation, biking and walking in your work. And I'd especially like to thank the staff for all the work that they do in promoting and making biking and walking safer, more comfortable, and more convenient in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Just comment on that. I proclaimed the same thing in the city of Painesville yesterday. And we're also having a bike with the mayor on June 7th, Saturday, June 7th at 9:30 a.m. If anybody wants to come to Riggs Park in Hayesville and bike with us, sign up's at 9 o'clock. We go riding at 9:30. It's a short ride. So you're welcome. Any other members would like to speak during the public comment period? Anybody online? Nope. All right, we will move on to the action items. So our first action item is a comprehensive safety action plan. Kim?
Yes, thank you. So I know all of you are very familiar with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan and work to prioritize safety in our region. I appreciate that. Want to say thank you. We did receive guidance from a federal review when we submitted for SS4A last year. And also we reviewed the NOFO for this SS4A grant and realized that we did need to make some edits and updates to our comprehensive safety action plan to ensure that it would be an eligible document for the jurisdictions to apply for that funding. So we have made 3 primary updates. I'm going to go through them today. Also, I did prepare a handout for you at your table if you want to see all of the exact changes that were made there. The 3 main updates were including the annual targets for eventually reaching 0 traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries, which we brought to you last month. We updated the strategies in the implementation plan. And we include now a list of safety projects from the member jurisdictions. The TSTAs met on February 25th and April 17th to discuss these updates and to finalize them. And then TAC recommended approval of the CSAP amendment on April 28th. So to just briefly go over the updates that are in the plan, these are the annual targets that Peter put together. If we are able to achieve these annual targets every year, we will eliminate regional serious injuries and fatal crashes within 25 years. Also, on the strategy updates, the majority of them were minor updates for time frame and or minor wordsmithing. That's what you can see here on the screen on these 2. But I did want to point out a couple of little bit larger updates. The first one was the Fatal Crash Review Committee that was in there, that we would develop a Fatal Crash Review Committee. After talking to the TSTAs, there's a lot that goes into the development of one of those and a lot to consider: staffing, resources. And so we just updated that to say explore the development of this committee, because we felt like we really needed to do some research. There's actually some new processes for handling these crash reviews. So staff plan to take a little bit of a step back and do some research to find out how we want to implement that here in our region to help our member jurisdictions. Then we have 2 new ones. We have, of course, the Safe Routes to Schools. We wanted to add that into here because it's something we're very proud of and something that we would love to track in our safety action plan. And then also, when we were awarded the SS4A planning and demonstration grant, that included demonstration safety projects within the jurisdictions. So we added that one here as well. So no major or out of left field changes here, but definitely wanted to bring your attention to those. In addition, we did the project list, and this is in your handout. There were almost 100 projects, just under, identified in about a 2-week period. Peter spent a lot of time on the phone with all of you and appreciate your quick response. But we wanted to include a project list of safety improvements. These are projects that jurisdictions can then apply for the SS4A grant. So these projects have to be in the CSAP in order for all of you to apply for that SS4A funding. So we wanted to ensure that we got these in here. One thing to note, this is a project list of identified projects. There's no funding attached or no other details other than just including these projects within our CSAP. So working within a very quick time period, Peter primarily reached out to all of the jurisdictions with 2 goals in mind: identifying potential SS4A implementation grant candidate projects, and also building this list of projects to be reflective of the WAMPO community. And again, these projects need to have some aspect that is working on intersections, speed, or vulnerable road users. So that was the criteria, very loose. So before you today, for your consideration, we have the following action items. And I would also be open to any questions or comments from the TPB before we move to the action.
So once these are completed, are they removed or do they stay on?
They just stay on there, and we track them. I track every strategy that's in the CSAP and ensure that we're making progress. So
great.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions?
Okay, if not, for your consideration, we have the following action items. Approve the proposed amendment to the CSAP as presented. Not approve the proposed amendment to the CSAP. Approve the proposed amendment to the CSAP with specific changes. Tax recommendation was to approve the proposed amendment to the CSAP as presented.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve this?
I move we approve as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve the CSAP amendment as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move on to item B, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050, public hearing and approval.
Thank you. Well, after 2.5 years of planning and analyzing and compiling and writing and collaborating with stakeholders and planning partners at the state and federal levels and public participation processes, we are finally at the stage of bringing to you a metropolitan transportation plan for approval that we request that you consider for approval, that is. As part of this, though, we are going to have as this meeting function as one final public hearing for one last public engagement activity. And for that purpose, we are going to go into the contents of the 7 main chapters one last time before requesting that you vote on the final thing. We went through the 30-day public comment period, March 8th to April 7th. And we have all of the draft chapters and appendices online at WAMPO.org/MTP 2050, and also in the binders that are around the table in 2 volumes there, so you can look at those anytime you want, or take them with you back to your office. And the TAC recommended on April 28th that the plan be approved in its current form. However, as our executive director mentioned earlier, we have received some new guidance from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And there is related to a letter from the Secretary of Transportation that is linked in the staff report for this item on page 28. And we are going to work with our KDOT and FHWA and FTA planning partners on exactly what needs to be done in response to this new federal guidance in regard to our various core planning documents, including the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. However, it is our recommendation at this time to proceed with approving the MTP as it is in its current form now, and then we will bring either an amendment or an administrative modification to this body for a vote in the next few months. This will have 3 benefits. First, MTPs have to be approved once every 5 years at most. The last one was approved June 9th, 2020. Therefore, in order to prevent a lapse between MTPs, which would have a cascading effect on our other activities, it is recommended to have this one approved before that 5-year anniversary is reached. Second, going through a full amendment or administrative modification procedure would ensure full compliance with the WAMPO public participation plan as opposed to a more rushed process. And third, it would make sure that we have sufficient time to work with our state and federal planning partners to make certain that all elements of the new federal guidance are incorporated into the changes, meaning that there will not be a need to come back to you a third time. So that is the reasoning behind that. And once all that is done, we will have one more round of public engagement, round 5, to introduce the approved plan to the general public through a road show for the plan. Now, to show you one last time where the draft chapters and appendices are on wampo.org/MTP 2050, one tab for the chapters, one tab for the appendices. Now, we are not going to go through the 14 appendices today, although you may certainly ask about them and we'll be glad to tell you whatever you want about them. But we will go briefly through the 7 chapters of the main document today. Chapter 1, Plan, Purpose, and Development. Chapter 2, Regional Trends. Chapter 3, Existing Conditions. Chapter 4, System Management. Chapter 5, System Performance Report, which is where you will find the performance measures, both the required federal ones and non-federally required regional performance measures created specifically for WAMPO. Chapter 6, Financial Plan, which is all about showing how the MTP is fiscally constrained, meaning it does not call for more spending than the amount of revenue that is expected to be available over the same period. And finally, Chapter 7, Project Selection and List, wherein can be found the fiscally constrained project list for the plan, showing all of the projects that have been included in it and which, because they are included in it, are necessarily eligible to be included into our short-range transportation improvement program and considered for federal funding. Not guaranteed federal funding, but eligible to be considered for it. Now here are the 14 appendices. I won't read through all those. And Chapter 1, Plan, Purpose, and Development. This introductory chapter explains the federal regulations regarding metropolitan planning organizations and the requirement that we have an MTP approved every 5 years and the reasoning behind those regulations. It also introduces WAMPO as an organization and introduces the WAMPO region, and it summarizes the planning process that was followed, establishing a vision and goals for the plan, analyzing data and performing public engagement activities in order to establish needs and baseline conditions, and finally, developing the fiscally constrained project list, which we will get to soon. It lists related planning documents and WAMPO committees. It summarizes briefly our public engagement activities, which will be discussed later. And finally, it introduces the vision, goals, and objectives of MTP 2050 and how they are consistent with the US DOT's 10 federal planning factors. And now I will turn it over to Peter Moore to discuss chapters 2 through 5.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Try to go through here real quick. So Chapter 2, Regional Trends, looks at regional economic sectors, residential expansion, transportation networks, and impacts on the environment. So 2.1 and 2.2, Regional Connections and Demographics, summarizes broad growth trends in employment and population throughout the region. It explores the region's current and past demographics. You can see there that's the WAMPO population pyramid as produced by the Census Bureau. 2.3, 2.4 looks at education and housing, looks at the distribution of schools and the scale of the regional education system, delves into the region's past and present household and housing characteristics. You can see there that's a map of the median home value by census tract inside of WAMPO. 2.5 and 2.6 looks at employment, jobs, and travel. So summarizes current and projected regional employment and highlights trends across various industries, and analyzes regional commuting patterns and travel mode shares, including transit ridership. So you can see there, that's an example of the Wichita Transit Demand Response Trips and Origin Destinations. It's a heat map of that. 2.7 looks at different environmental resources, examines transportation's environmental impact. So you can see there, that's the 3-year average ozone trends for the region. Chapter 3, existing conditions, looks at existing transportation infrastructure and services in the WAMPO region. So 3.1 discusses the current network of roads and bridges in the region, traffic volumes on the National Highway System or NHS, and bridge condition ratings. The 3.2 summarizes the current availability of public transit services and the use thereof in the region. And that's just a map of the average annual daily traffic across our National Highway System. 3.3 looks at bicycle and pedestrian traffic. So it looks at that infrastructure, its usage, the benefits of non-motorized travel, and potential avenues for improvement. You can see there, there's a map of our bicycle and pedestrian counts. 3.4 examines existing freight facilities, the weight value of commodities moving through the region, and the movement of goods by various transportation modes, including highways, railways, transportation. This is our map of the highway freight network. It's very similar to the National Highway System, plus a few extra corridors. And then finally, 3.5 provides an overview of current electric vehicle charging infrastructure and potential future deployments and opportunities for funding. Moving on to chapter 4, looks at issues and opportunities related to how the transportation network is maintained and managed. So gives a brief overview of infrastructure condition. You can see there it's a table of the number of bridges and how much of that bridge deck area is in good, fair, and poor condition across the WAMPO region. And also provides an overview of some potential funding sources to provide maintenance for that. Number 1 there, we have the Surface Transportation Block Grant, more commonly known as STBG or formerly STP. The Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program, and another example would be the FTA 5307 Urbanized Area Formula Grants for public transit vehicles and other facilities. And then 4.3, our Intelligent Transportation Systems, gives a summary of the regional ITS infrastructure and its role in the region. Also, you can see Appendix H, talks more about the regional ITS architecture. That is a map of all the cameras on Wichita's ITS deployment, which way. Transportation safety in 4.4, overview of the safe system approach and a summary of the regional safety action plan, relevant statistics, and identified safety areas that we talked about here earlier, intersections, speed, and vulnerable road users. The CSAP also forms an appendix of the MTP, Appendix I. 4.5 and 4.6, transportation demand management and congestion management. So 4.5 looks at transportation demand management, provides an overview of a set of a general strategy designed to optimize transportation efficiency, improve travel options, promote sustainable mobility and without expanding roadway capacity, and also showcases forecasts from the WAMPO travel demand model. That also has its own separate appendix, Appendix F. And then 4.6, congestion management, discusses congestion management and WAMPO's federally required CMP or congestion management process, which is also another appendix, Appendix G. And then finally, 4.7, security and system resilience, describes ways to improve transportation system resilience in the face of things like natural disasters, climate change, and explores the MPO's role in assessing infrastructure vulnerability and coordinating with local planning agencies, and discusses different emergency management planning in the region. And then chapter 5, system performance. We have 5.1 looks at federal, and 5.2 are regional performance measures. So 5.1 examines the required federal performance measures. So we have PM1 safety, PM2, which talks about pavement and bridge condition, and PM3 system performance. We call these they appear as single items, but they're actually groups of performance measures. So PM1 actually refers to all of the different statistics in that table you can see there, and that is just an example of the different performance measures For PM1, the safety ones, they're all 5-year rolling averages that are in that table there. There's a full table that shows that against the state performance measures in Chapter 5. 5.2, our regional performance measures, looks at several regional measures beyond those federally required. We looked at commuter mode shares, average travel time to work, greenhouse gas emissions, and sidewalks and multi-use path, or specifically the network length or the total network size of our sidewalks. On there, you can see an example of the Wichita Metropolitan Statistical Area commuter mode shares. So you can see how people actually get to work. Do they drive alone, carpool, work from home? The other is also broken down in Chapter 5, so you can see those smaller commuter mode shares like walking and biking. And that brings us to Chapter 6, our financial plan. We'll hand things back over to Nick Flanders.
Thank you, Peter. Chapter 6, the financial plan. And first, if we fail to be clear in anything that we talked about, please let us know, and we will clarify our words, and we would apologize if we failed in that regard at any point during this presentation. Chapter 6, financial plan, demonstrates how the MTP is fiscally constrained, meaning that the combined costs of all of the projects in the fiscally constrained project list, plus the cost to operate and maintain the transportation system over the next 25 years, does not exceed the amount of revenue expected to be available for transportation in the WAMPO region between now and the year 2050. We performed this calculation for KDOT, for public transit, and for local governments minus public transit, as well as for the time bands of 2025 to 2028, 2029 to 2038, and 2039 to 2050. We conservatively assumed as a default, unless otherwise noted, that revenues would increase at 1% per year and operation and maintenance costs would increase at 4.5% per year. This latter number is equivalent to the default inflation assumption that is used by KDOT on its projects. And there is no distinction between WAMPO suballocated and non-suballocated federal funding on the local projects that are included in here. I believe this is on page 170, about a table of the projects that are included with their costs by project type, totaling 147 projects. And again, those 147 by the agency types that conduct them. And now on page 171, these are the final fiscal constraint tables that were produced. One for KDOT, one for public transit, one for local governments except for public transit, and finally, all three of those combined. And the non-negative numbers at the bottom of this mean it is fiscally constrained. Requirement met. And now finally, Chapter 7, Project Selection and List. From September 15th, 2023 to February 2nd, 2024, there was a call for projects, both for MTP 2050 and for the 2025 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program. WAMPO staff and consultants scored all of the submitted projects according to criteria that were approved by the TPB and reflected them in the travel demand model for the region. The project selection committee made recommendations from this call for projects to be included in the new 2025 to 2028 TIP, which was approved by the TPB on August 13th, 2024. Then on October 3rd, 2024, the PSC met again and made recommendations of projects for MTP 2050, which the TAC agreed with on October 28th, 2024, and which the TPB approved on November 12th, 2024. The first time band, all projects were put into the 3 time bands of 2025 to 2028, 29 to 38, and 39 to 50. The first time band was just to match the period of that first TIP. The second time band was just 10 years after that, and the last one just the remainder of the planning horizon. We separated them out into KDOT, public transit, and local government projects, because if they were all combined, it might mess up the fiscal constraint analysis, since they all have different funding sources, different approval procedures, and different requirements overall. It would create the issue that a surplus in one of these categories might be misinterpreted as funds available for another category, which is why we did it that way. MTPs are allowed to have an illustrative list of projects that could be moved up to the fiscally constrained list in the future if more funding is available than was thought. However, it was determined that all projects that were submitted during the call for projects could fit into the fiscally constrained project list, and therefore there is not an illustrative list in this MTP. However, the PSC still had to recommend which projects to put into which time bands. It is also very much worth noting that we included what we call category projects in the project list, because there are some projects of such a nature that they typically start on a shorter time frame than, say, the North Junction, which has been going on for many, many years. But by having project categories, projects that fit those categories may necessarily qualify to get into the TIP and be considered for federal funding on that basis. These include public transit projects, bridge projects, bicycle and pedestrian projects, intelligent transportation system projects, traffic flow and safety projects, and regional planning projects. Now here are the mappable projects by time band and by project type. There, those maps are on pages 177 and 178. And starting on page 179, we have the actual project list, starting with the KDOT projects, only 7 of them, all but 1 of which are in the first time band as KDOT requested. Public transit projects on the same page, all category projects. And starting on page 181, the local government projects, 63 of them in the first time band, 63 of them in the second time band, and 8 of them, if you count the category projects, in the final time band. And now I will turn things over to Marky Jonas to go over the public engagement round 4 one last time before submitting this all to your questions and then a request for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Switching over to a little bit less technical, I just wanted to go over our round 4 public engagement. I will direct everyone in the larger document, in the full document, other than the last appendix, there is a little sticky tab in there that will take you directly to the public comments that we did receive. So as you all know, we did release the draft document for a 30-day public comment period with this body's approval. That was from March 8th through April 7th. We attended multiple community events during that time, as well as 2 WAMPO hosted events. And that was a virtual public meeting as well as an open house. Thank you to everyone again for participating either in those meetings or for having us at one of your meetings. It was a great opportunity to get out and explain what we're doing a little bit more. We did receive 40 public comments. All of those are documented in that draft, as well as the staff response to those. And that's kind of the gist of round 4. As you all know, the public participation was a huge part of this plan. There is a full appendix documenting that, as well as a lot of the feedback from our stakeholders, such as this body. So before we formally seek your approval, are there any questions or comments or WAMPO staff that we can try and answer?
Sure.
Quick comment. I apologize if it is a repetition for many of you, but before we take a vote, staff felt, for the benefit of new members, staff felt to clarify some of those. That's all. Thank you. And also want to thank staff because there's a lot of hard work in producing such type of document with, hopefully there's some, valuable data summaries and those that can be used for our decision-making process. That's all. Thank you, Mark.
I do appreciate the amount of time that was put into this over the last several years. I know we hear about it every meeting almost, especially all the different items that are in the chapters and appendices. It's I know definitely a lot of work went into this, so thank you. Are there any other comments before we ask for a vote?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Is the letter from the federal government, does that have to do with like DEI issues within our plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Nope. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the MTP 2050 as presented? Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the MTP 2050 as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item C, the supporting Wichita Transit 2025 Transit Safety Performance Measure Targets. Peter.
Thank you, Markey. So the 2025 transit safety targets, or Wichita Transit's, under FTA's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or PTSAP rule, applicable transit agencies are required to develop safety plans that define how those agencies will implement their safety management systems. These plans are required to include targets for performance measures defined in the National Public Transportation Safety Plan, which relates to fatalities, injuries, safety events, and system reliability. And Wichita Transit has developed their safety targets for 2025. MPOs are required to coordinate with local transit agencies such as Wichita Transit to either support or set their own transit safety targets for the region. As a quick aside on these transit safety targets, the coordination and relationship between transit agencies and MPOs varies widely, but the rule is more one size fits all. So there are some MPOs that are very, very much involved and almost a single entity where the MPO is part of regional transit. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have MPOs like ourselves where the primary FTA designated recipient of FTA funds and the MPO are two separate agencies. However, with that in mind, the rule is we would treat this similar to other performance measures. So with this in mind, Wichita Transit, every year they set their own safety targets. According to the FTA rules, we need to either support their targets or set our own targets for the region. And you can see them here. They set targets for fatalities and fatalities per 100K vehicle miles, bus driver injuries. Their injuries per 100K of vehicle revenue miles is what that acronym stands for there. And safety events per 100K, VRM, and vehicle rev miles per major system failure. We received these targets from Wichita Transit on April 1st. To meet our FTA requirement, we need to show that we either support or set our own targets. After presenting this to TAC, TAC recommended that we support Wichita Transit's 2025 safety transit targets. With that in mind, we are seeking your approval for supporting these targets.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I think a goal of 0 fatalities is a wonderful thing to reach for. Are there any implications or consequences for not hitting target?
I would need to check with I'll get back to you.
To my understanding, there are no implications. It is up to jurisdictions and MPOs to set those targets as a planning process, to have a planning guidelines, but there are no penalties, council member.
Okay, thank you. Well, that said, I'll move to approve supporting Wichita Transit's 2025 transit safety targets for the WAMPO region as presented.
We have motion and a second to approve the supporting Wichita Transit 2025 transit safety performance measure targets as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say it. Oh, sure.
On the targets, so you're adopting Wichita's those targets, but we have a bigger metropolitan area. And so when you adopt these targets, what's the implication of that for the total area? Because that kind of, it seems like there'll be some washout of the targets there.
Yes, since we don't have a regional transit authority, we have separate transit agencies around the region. Wichita Transit is a group provider of these transit safety measures. So other smaller transit agencies can choose to use Wichita Transits, which I believe they often do, or they can go there, but there is no centralized regional transit. Per FTA guidance in that case, we look towards our local agencies and either support their targets or try to set our own for the region. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Kind of, but I think it's okay. I mean, I was just wanting to see if there was any consideration to that.
To a whole region versus, yeah, just the one agency.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Peter. All right, next we have item 5, discussion on updates, employment sectors, IT systems and support. Peter?
Thank you, Chair. We're looking at different regional economic sectors as defined by the Greater Wichita Partnership. Today, I have the IT systems and support. And as a quick caveat, our data is starting to get a little bit older. We developed these reports in 2023. And at that time, the most recent available complete year data was 2021. These are built from those reports. So I just want to push the caveat, when we did develop these almost a year and a half ago, it was the most current. We're just starting to get kind of out of date. But with that out of the way, IT systems and support as defined by the Greater Wichita Partnership include services like cybersecurity and software, but also businesses that support services like payroll, accounting, and logistics of all kinds. So we're going to try to answer 3 things. Who are the key players today? Where's the industry as a whole right now? And what are the key factors that'll affect the future of the industry? So per Data Axle employment establishment data, there's approximately 300 businesses across the WAMPO region that fall under this category, supporting about 8,500 regional jobs. The 5 largest IT systems and support sector employers by location is we have InfoSeek Services as number 1 at 500. Cox Communications, their largest single location, 175, but they're probably a bit larger than that in the area. We have T-Mobile, their call center at 175. High Touch Technologies, 150. Sodexo, 130. They are a hospitality logistics support service. And then the Wichita Metropolitan Statistical Area, the employment comparison, as we look at other regions, were similar to Tulsa, Oklahoma, but very, very much smaller in this sector compared to places like Kansas City and Oklahoma City. The employment trends, we were steadily going up until we hit 2021, dropped down to 8,530, but you can see we've been in that range for the past several years, or from 2015 to 2021, I should say. The IT system support, our medium wage comparison, on the lower end compared, again, similar to Tulsa, significantly less than Kansas City, Missouri. And then our support wages, so the IT system support wages generally going up, just about keeping up with inflation from 2015 though. So some real gain there, actually better than some of the other sectors, but not quite as high as the raw numbers would suggest. And key factors for the future. So entry barriers are low in terms of regulation and capital, but they do require expertise in IT and business support services. So throughout the substitutions, organizations rely heavily on IT systems, business processing and administrative support with few viable alternatives. It can be very hard to move certain aspects of payroll processing and things back in-house. Rivaling among existing firms, it's highly competitive with a large number of companies competing for a share of the market. And with that, that finishes the 6 of those 7 reports, 6 out of 7 of those reports. Any questions for me?
I don't have any. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Peter. Next up is item 6, the committee and partnership updates. First one is the executive committee. We had one last week. Our next one will be August 7th. All right, next, the Kansas Department of Transportation.
Is that me?
Mike,
Or
yes.
not you? I'm first. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a few items I wanted to touch on quick. So the last couple months, there's been a lot of official correspondence between KDOT and a number of jurisdictions in the WAMPO region. We did announce our intention to update the 1997 MIS for the Northwest Expressway. We plan to get a solicitation on the street next month to hire consultant services to assist with that update. So just want to give you a quick sort of update on that process. I met with our contracting team actually today. So they're going to be very helpful with that solicitation process. I think that's what I wanted to cover on that. Are there any questions on the Northwest Expressway MIS update? I can try to answer some. Yes. I don't. That is going to hopefully, I got to write the RFP first. I found out today. So yeah, usually when you start asking questions, you end up you kind of self-assign yourself some tasks. So, but no, we do intend to get a group together to kind of help with the scoping process. Want to make sure that's a cooperative and collaborative process with our partners here in the region. And the consultant that we engage to assist with that process, I'm going to have them assist with that to kind of shepherd that process. So good question. I wish I had a good answer for you, so I apologize for that. Oh, I had a great answer, even better.
Mike, good question, real quick.
Yes.
What's the timeline on that, getting that completed?
I don't have a timeline right now. Well, it'll take a couple months to get somebody under contract to assist with that. It'll take a bit of time to go through our scoping process. I think from that point, though, you're looking at probably a 10 to 12 month study process, something along those lines. So that puts us probably early to mid next summer before it gets wrapped up, would be my best guess here today. Also wanted to, I don't see any more hands up, wanted to give a quick update. So we did have consultant interviews a couple of weeks ago for the project on 254 at Rock and Webb. Happy to report we did select Wilson and Company to assist with that design process. They partnered locally with Trans-Systems as well. So we have expertise out of Salina, Kansas City, and Wichita assigned to that project. Mayor Benaj, do want to thank Ted and Ann for being a part of that selection process. It's always nice to have our local partners in the room when we're making those important selections. So thank you for that. And yeah, that concludes my update.
We do appreciate the opportunity to participate in that because, that's right in our backyard. So.
All right, thank you, Mike. Nick, do you have anything? Okay, sure.
On Saturday, May 17th, there will be a weekend closure at the westbound K-96 to southbound I-135 ramp. The ramp is expected, the closure is expected to begin at 5 a.m. on Saturday and is anticipated to be completed by Sunday afternoon. The closure will be to erect a girder.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Any questions? All right, next we'll move on to, looks like Federal Highway Administration. No one there. How about member jurisdiction
Mr.
update?
Chair,
Oh, yes.
I can offer a quick update from the federal perspective. I just want to let everybody know, we work with 3 to 5 federal agencies on a regular basis. I can speak to Federal Highway Transit and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. We have seen a number of individuals in those organizations take advantage of the deferred resignation program and the early retirement program as well as of late. I did let everybody know, I know Rick Backlund is here from time to time from Federal Highway. Rick did take advantage of the early retirement program. He's no longer with Federal Highway. So as of now, KDOT rolls up to Kevin Ward. He is the division administrator for the Missouri Federal Highway Administration. I've known Kevin for a while through our dealings with MoDOT. He's a good person. So we're excited to be working with him through this transition. His office is largely intact. I think we lost a good portion of people in Kansas through this process, just based on where they were in their careers. Nothing to do with Kansas, right? So yeah, we are partnering with Missouri during this transition. So just a quick update from the federal desk, I guess, at KDOT.
All right, appreciate that. Any comments from the member jurisdiction? No comments. All right, other business? We have none. Next is adjournment. You're adjourned.